Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Star Wars Expanded Universe, narrated by Disney, or Lucasfilm, whichever way you slice it. Legends. So these comic book issues are making it a little bit more difficult to figure out when I should make an episode or a review or not. Because unlike a novel, you finish a novel, do the review. This is interesting. So I just got to issue 28, which I believe is the Vector storyline, which crosses over all of the Star Wars EU, like the Old Republic era, the Clone Wars or something like that, the Rebellion, and then now. So that's a thing. So I decided to stop it at issue 26 for this particular video, because 27 is kind of a one-off. So I'm just going to include that in the next one. But today I have for you issues 20 through 26 of Star Wars Legacy. And so, non-spoiler wise for these particular issues, I think they're really good. I think the first couple issues in this run, 20 to 20-something-ish, the art was a little bit, it wasn't bad art, it's just not, like, the art that is consistently the one that I enjoy is the one that I've been seeing whenever Cade's around, it's at its best. So it's not necessarily bad art styles, it's just styles I don't like as much as the ones that I've been seeing, but they're all drawn fairly well. And all the story's been great, and it's all building upon other stuff, so overall I enjoyed it, and I'm excited to continue on the adventure of Cade Skywalker. He's definitely one of the most fascinating Skywalkers out there, and I'm really enjoying how different he is from the rest of them. Anyway, so for issue 20 and issue 21, for my non-spoiler, basically the New Rebellion. It deals with what remains of the Galactic Alliance and their fight against the Empire in the past, like during the Battle of Ossus, and after. I don't know what that is making that noise, but whatever. Sorry about that. Where were we? Issue 22, more rebellion. That's about it. For my non-spoiler on issue 22. Remember, these are comics, going to be a bit shorter with it. Issue 23, we catch up with Cade and everyone, what's been going on. Issue 24, Familial Ties. We learn about we learn about a family member of Cade's. That's all I'll say there. Issue 25, they go to the backup Jedi safe haven, and they have a meeting. Issue 26, mostly, it has other stuff going on, following up on the Jedi meeting and getting ready for future events in the series. But the big part of this book is kind of about Sin and learning about the history, and finally figuring out why he dislikes Jedi and all that. And he actually sees the Jedi that harmed his Da. And so, if you want to know more, you'd have to read it yourself. And that's about it for issues 20 through 26. Overall, really enjoyed it. Thought it was good. And yeah, if you don't want spoilers, if you want to go read these issues yourselves, now's the time. I'm getting spoilers. Alright, so issue 20 to 21, just kind of lumped them together. We learn about the Mon Calamari Guile. He's pretty cool, as Mon Calamari usually are, though none can ever surpass Akbar, because Akbar is amazing. We have a new Rogue Squadron, which is really cool. It's got an entirely, new team, because this takes place so much later. We have the one dude, I can't for the life of me remember his name, but the guy that was being mean to Anakin in episode 1, Saboba, that's his name. Not him, but his race, one of those guys, is in the squadron. There's a bearable, I think, in the squadron. And one of those guys with like the points in their face, and the black lady. And so they were interesting though, and I enjoyed them. And it's cool that we have Rogue Squadron even so far into the timeline. We have a Galactica Alliance flashback to before the Sith won and before the Ossus Temple was destroyed, where we get to see Cole talking on Coruscant with the Galactic Alliance and everything. So that was interesting. I guess I'm not being too spoilers with it because it's a comic, you know. We get a big battle present day. I think that was the last thing of issue 20, or maybe 21, but it was pretty crazy, but fun. Really enjoy the leader of it, who's a Duro, I think. Issue 22 is the Mon Calamari Massacre. Crate is pissed about what went on in those last 2 issues, so he slaughters the Mon Calamari and says the rest of them are going to work in labor camps until they're extinct. He says that blatantly and clearly, that at some point he wants them extinct because of their betrayal or whatever. Blatantly on TV says so. Even, I mean, I guess he's had 7 years, but, jeez. And he's not like speciesist or anything. Like, he has many aliens working in his one Sith order, unlike, you know, Sidious, who was. But they betrayed him, and if you betray Darth Grade, he does not care about you at all anymore. Alliance and Fel team up. The Fel Empire, the Imperial Knights, they join forces together, but the Imperial Knights also want to join forces with the Jedi if possible. Issue 23, we have Cade show up with Rev and kind of be awesome and intimidating, and beats up a bunch of thugs and whatnot. He makes Rev promise to work for him, but behind the scenes, Rev is working with the Sith. And then also, the only other thing I really found of note in this issue is that Cade makes up with Delilah Blue. I really like Delilah, so that's cool. Not just because, you know, he's his Zeltron, but I like her character. I think she's pretty cool. Issue 24, we learn about the character. Oh, sorry. So in the last issue, we met these characters at the end because they headed to this planet with this guy named Bantha and his family. And we find out in this issue, this is the Familiar Ties one, we find out that Bantha is Cade's uncle. Not only that, but that his real name is Nat Skywalker. So I'm assuming a brother of Cole. I mean, obviously. And so that was interesting to find out. But he gave up that life and decided to be a normal person. After, you know, he thought for a little bit at least, that Cole and Cade were dead. The Imperials attack the home, and so of course Cade gets upset, decides to leave the planet because he doesn't want to harm the family, and decides he needs to kill Crate, otherwise he'll never be able to be at peace. Issue 25, in the previous issue, at the very end, like at that very, very end, we find out that the Imperial Knights are following them because in the 24th issue, we also meet a character who was, because we were seeing this person actually in issue 23 who was kind of following Cade around for a couple of issues, and then we find out that character is actually a previous Jedi apprentice who used to be like romantically involved with Cade, and so, but now, after the Ossus, you know, disaster, she thought, you know, all the Jedi were dead. You know, how could she know? You know, she's you know, a teenager at the time, so she ends up finding the Imperial Knights and joining up with them. So now she's an Imperial Knight, and so, you know, Cade gets a bit upset about that for a little bit. But so she gives intel to the Imperial Knights, and they follow to the Jedi hideout. And then we get to issue 25. There's a Jedi meeting. which is really interesting. We have Cade finally name drop Asherod Het to the rest of the Jedi. We find out, the only thing I don't like about this is, where was Kruik in Luke's Jedi Order? Are we just to assume that he was there and we just never heard about him? Or did he simply not join up with Luke's because he didn't, I don't know, because it's very clearly they were following Cole and everything, but yet he's never mentioned. Now, of course, he's more of a comic book character, so why would he be? It just still feels weird that we have a couple characters from the Clone Wars era that have just never. Crate makes sense because he's, he was a bounty hunter for a bit, so why he'd have nothing to, and the Empire was being run. There were no Jedi as far as he knew. Then he found the Sith holocron and he started, learning about the Sith, and then by the time he came out, Luke had already done everything in the movies that had all been taken care of. And then the Vaughn come, he gets tortured, he decides, I'm going to become the next Dark Lord, builds that all up in secret. So it makes sense that we never ever see him up until, Fate of the Jedi, because it's like a threat worse than the both of them. But Kruik, who's apparently been around since the Clone Wars, I'm sure I'll see him again in the Clone Wars comics, and that'll be really cool. Or whenever I'll see him again. I imagine he's not just here. Pretty sure Asherod Het's and other stuff too. But to just, I don't know, feel like, why wasn't he around? Or at least get like a name drop at some point. But regardless, he's there. He talks about, like, Asherod Het. There's no way, or not him, sorry, there was another person who's like, no, Asherod Het was a super great Jedi or whatever. And he's like, the Clone Wars changed all of us or whatever. So, they have the discussion. Cade wants to assassinate Crate, and then the Imperial Knights want to join forces, so the Jedi are trying to figure out if Cade's plan is a good one. Of course, it kind of sounds like a dark side move, so they're kind of hesitant about that, and they're also contemplating joining up with the Imperial Knights. Sin finds the Jedi that killed his dad, so he's all strung up about that. Then we get to issue 26, Sin versus Jedi. He ends up ambushing the Jedi who killed his dad and starts attacking him. Luckily, the Jedi does not go straight to slicing him down. He holds him against a wall and is like, what's the deal, bro? And so we get Sin's backstory. He was a little kid. His dad was a pirate and, not a very nice person. He was kind of a bad person. Not like Han Solo where he smuggled things and did bad stuff, but like he's good at heart. His father was not a good man. But of course, when you're a kid and you see a traumatizing thing like your dad being sliced down by a lightsaber, you tend to kind of idolize your parent and make them out to be something that they weren't. And so he finally kind of gets that resolved in this issue, and kind of comes to terms with the fact that, my dad was not a great person, and this guy didn't just stab him in cold blood, he stabbed him in self-defense, and, so that was interesting. I like Sin too. Of course, it's a comic book, so I think it's a bit harder to give as much character development as you could in a novel, per se. Like, I guess Jason's an unfair example because he had so many novels, but Jason's such a well-developed character. Luke is such a well-developed character, as you talk about the movies, comics, and, the novels. But with him, Sin, we were just getting introduced to this character in the comic, which is going to be interesting when I go through the Clone Wars comics, what I think of that. But, and all the other comics I have to read. But, characterization, I imagine, you only have so many pages in an issue. But I thought, with what they had, it was really good. There are similar stories across all of Star Wars, like with stuff like that. Look at Jango. Look at Boba Fett. His whole hatred for the Jedi stems from the fact that he saw his father get beheaded, right? And so it's a very similar thing here, except Boba Fett always idolized his dad and never, ever, ever acknowledged the fact that his dad, kind of a sleazy guy. Now, his dad was awesome, but also, not a perfect guy either. But Sin is in a similar boat to where he's a bounty hunter and a smuggler and all that. But it's like poetry, right? Like George Lucas says, it rhymes. So even this farther in the timeline, we have similar stories like that. But I think it was still handled well, so I enjoyed it. As many before him, Cade, I mean, he sees the Force as a tool, nothing more. And that is such a dangerous trap. Now, of course, I do kind of buy into the Grey Jedi concept. I think you can. It depends, right? So, like, dark side powers come from dark emotions, filling into those desires and stuff. So it depends on how you use it. I think, if you force choke somebody, but it's not out of anger, you're just kind of like, stay there for a second. All right, and let him go, But you kind of check out there and you just do it. I think that's different. That's more of a gray area. Whereas if you're like, oh, you bastard, stay there. That's like out of anger. So there's a difference. But still, it's the same thing that Jason thought. It's the same thing that many other Jedi thought, and that kind of became their downfall. He's not a Jedi or a Sith right now. He's walking a very tight rope, and I'm just really fascinated to see what becomes of that. But yeah, that's pretty much it for issues 21 or 20 to 26. I'm probably gonna do the issue 27, which I've already read, but I'm gonna wait for the next one, and then the Vector storyline, and then I'll continue on probably from whatever's left to 40, and then 40 to 50. Probably how I'm gonna do that. Maybe. But anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you think of the Legacy comics in the comment section below. And as always, guys, I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.